Welcome to The Explainer. We're about to get into the incredibly powerful and honestly heart-wrenching story of Nnu Ego from Buchi Emecheta's masterpiece, The Joys of Motherhood. We're going to really dig into what a mother's sacrifice can truly cost.
Okay, so let's jump right in, right at a moment of absolute crisis. You see this question on the screen? It's really the core of Nnu Ego's entire story. We're going to unpack exactly how she ended up in such a desperate place.
So, I want you to just picture this for a second. We're in Lagos, Nigeria. It's a busy city, people everywhere, life is just humming along. And right in the middle of all of it, on the Carter Bridge, is a woman named Nnu Ego. And she is so completely overwhelmed by grief that she's ready to end it all. Now, to figure out how she got to this point, well, we've got to go back. Way back.
Right. So, her story? It doesn't actually start in that big, bustling city. Nope. It begins in her village, Ibutsa, where you could almost say her fate was sealed before she even took her first breath.
And this timeline, it just lays it all out, doesn't it? We see her birth in Ibutsa about 25 years before our stories start. Then, 16 years later, she's already been through a humiliating first marriage. And that all leads up to the present day, to that moment of pure despair on the bridge. Her life was just one dramatic and often really painful turn after another.
You know, Nnu Ego's background is practically the stuff of legend. Her dad, a super powerful chief named Agbadi, and her mom, Ona, was this beautiful, independent woman that he loved but could never really possess. So Nnu Ego's very existence comes from this incredibly intense, complicated union. It's no wonder her life was set up to be full of drama.
Okay, this is really important. To get what's going on in Nnu Ego's world, you have to understand this idea of a chi. Think of it as a personal spirit that kind of shaped your destiny. And hers? Well, hers was said to be the spirit of a slave girl who had vowed she would never have children. Now, in a culture where a woman's worth was almost entirely based on having sons, this wasn't just some old story. It was a curse. It basically defined her from the second she was born.
So after that disastrous first marriage, where everyone decided she was barren, basically proving that her chi was cursed, Nnu Ego is shipped off. She's sent to find a new life, maybe even a new identity, in the huge, sprawling city of Lagos.
And this is a massive turning point. Look at the contrasts here. Her first marriage to Amatokwa was a total failure, just pure humiliation. She was called barren, beaten, sent away. But the second marriage to Nnafe in Lagos, it represents a whole new world of hope. It's her one shot to become a mother, which in her mind is her entire reason for being. Literally everything is riding on this.
And you know what? For a little while, a brief, beautiful moment in Lagos, she gets it. She gets the one thing she has prayed for, the one thing she believes will finally make her life complete.
She has a son, finally. His name is Ngozi, and his birth changes everything for her. It's like that curse from her chi is finally broken. And she doesn't just find purpose as a mom, she even starts her own little business selling cigarettes and matches. For the first time, maybe ever, her life actually feels whole.
And then, the absolute worst thing imaginable happens. The joy that she fought so hard to get is just gone, snatched away in an instant. Her dream isn't just put on hold, it is utterly, completely shattered.
And that's it. That's the grief that drives her to the Carter Bridge. This is what brings us right back to where we started this whole story. It's an all-consuming pain, and the only reason her story doesn't end right there is because strangers step in and save her.
So, after she's saved, she does get her wish for children. But it's not the beautiful, happy life she always pictured. Not even close. Instead, it just becomes this relentless, grinding cycle of duty and just trying to survive.
And just look at this storm she has to weather. First, she gets more children, sons Oshia and Adim, and then twin girls. But then, her husband Nnafe loses his job, and suddenly they're facing starvation. Then, a co-wife named Adaku moves in, creating all this tension, and on top of everything, World War II breaks out and Nnafe is conscripted. It's just one thing after another, more kids, more wives, more poverty. Her dream has become a total nightmare. I mean, you can see it right here. The math of her life just does not add up. The family's needs are huge, this giant bar, while their income, what she and Naif bring in, is just tiny and unreliable. And this gap, this isn't just some numbers on a screen. This is her everyday soul-crushing reality. It's a mom working herself to the absolute bone
always fighting off starvation.
So, after all that, after a whole lifetime of sacrifice, what's the payoff? What happens with the children she gave absolutely everything for? Well, let's see. And here is the great, tragic irony of her life. Her son, Oshia, wins a scholarship to America and just abandons his family duties. Odium does something similar, leaving to get his own education. One of her daughters marries a man from another tribe, which sends her father into a rage. The whole thing blows up. The very sacrifices she made to give them a better life gave them the tools to embrace a Western individualism that led them to leave her and her traditional values behind. The family she nearly killed herself to build just falls apart.
It's just devastating. After a whole life spent struggling for her kids, Nnu Ego dies. And she doesn't die surrounded by a loving family. She dies alone on the side of a road, just a forgotten woman in the very village where her story began.
But here's the final, bitterest twist of all. Her children, the ones who were nowhere to be found when she was alive and needed them, they come back, and they throw her this huge, expensive funeral. They gave her all the wealth and status in death that she never, ever had in life. It's just such a hollow, empty gesture.
And this quote just hits so hard. She had been Nnu Ego, the daughter of the great Agbadi, who is now being advertised to the world as a good mother. You see, they didn't honor her, the actual person. They honored an idea of a mother, a label they could use to make themselves look good. The real Nnu Ego was completely lost in the process.
Which brings us right back to the novel's ironic title, in this final haunting question. Nnu Ego's story really makes you ask, what are the joys of motherhood? Is the joy supposed to be in the sacrifice itself? Or is it in the love and companionship that you hope for in return? A reward that for Nnu Ego just never came. Her story seems to suggest that when a woman's entire identity is boiled down to just being a mother, she might find herself, in the end, with nothing at all.